Welcome back. If you've just joined us, this is Africa News Network First Fast Live. My name is Cindy Mabi. Good evening to you. COSATU has ditched the planned meeting with the ANC's top six structure. The ANC top six were to meet with COSATU's executives today regarding the federation's ban on President Jacob Zuma and demanding his resignation from office. Meanwhile, the ANC says the meeting has been postponed as most of COSATU members are not in the country. The ANC initiated talks to have COSATU explain their public stance on President Jacob Zuma, from demanding his resignation to barring him from their federation events. Yesterday, the ANC's top structure met to prepare for this meeting with their tripartite alliance members.
Yesterday, the top six of the ANC met. It was not an emergency meeting. It was a meeting to prepare for a bilateral. You remember that a week ago, we postponed the meeting of a political council. Our view as the ANC was that perhaps before we meet in a meeting of all of us, let's meet with independent and individual alliance partners, given the issues that they have raised in public, including COSATU. The meeting was scheduled for today on a bilateral between the ANC and COSATU. At the request of COSATU, that meeting has been postponed because a number of COSATU officials are not in the country, and therefore they have requested that they would want all of them to be present when that meeting takes place. We've agreed to that postponement of the meeting. So the meeting was scheduled to be today. At the request of COSATU, that meeting has been postponed because some of their officials are not available.
What we have requested is that this meeting be postponed because when we came out of the Central Committee, our understanding was that we were going to go into an Alliance Political Council meeting. So the only dates that were left free or that were available were those dates for the Alliance Political Council meeting. When we got correspondence from the ANC that they were requesting a bilateral before that, we were in no position to really accommodate them today because of the prior commitments that we had already made as a federation. We are hoping that the ANC, if they still want the bilateral to sit, they will give us a new date, maybe for some time next week, because our priority is that we should have the Alliance Political Council meeting, but they seem to feel that a bilateral is necessary before that meeting. So we'll honor that bilateral as soon as they give us a date. But for us, our priority is that we want the Alliance to sit and discuss issues facing the Alliance.
And joining us in studio to discuss the tripartite alliance rupture is Tsepo Khadima, political analyst, and Sfiso Mahlangu, resident political analyst. And you're most welcome to engage with us on social media as well. Good evening to you, gentlemen, and thanks so much for joining us. Tsepo, just this whole, is it an implosion? Because now the COSATU and the tripartite alliance is essentially wanting to dictate terms to the ruling party. Do you think that this is something that they will attain, number one, depending on how hard they press the ANC?
I'm not sure that they'll be able to really achieve much in terms of trying to put pressure on the ANC. But for me, what is very intriguing is the fact that here we have a Labour Federation, a member of the alliance, that has already gone on record to say we are backing, we are fully behind the candidacy of the Deputy President of the ANC, Cyril Ramaphosa, to become President of the ANC come the elective conference. Now, you would have thought that at least there is some level of cordial relationship, there's an element of communication. Now, we are made to understand that the top six met yesterday in preparation of today's meeting, only to find out this morning that, in fact, they weren't going to be having any meeting. So, well, why did they waste time to meet yesterday? But if indeed Deputy President Cyril Ramaphosa was himself caught by surprise, I think that tells you everything else and the worth of their purported support for him to be president. Because if they can't just pick up a call and say, DP, we know that you're in a meeting on Sunday, but tell everybody else there that we're not going to be there tomorrow. And also, astonishing that they are writing to each other letters. They are so formal, and yet these are partners. And I think it tells us everything else in terms of what they are not saying. The whole story is in what they are not saying. That perhaps, you know, this alliance will, for some time to come now, I think, unless something drastic happens, it will be an alliance in name only and not an alliance in deed.
Yeah, I mean, they talk about the year of OR Tambo, and as a collective, COSATU also in contradictory terms, saying that they are committed to the alliance and believe in the vision of equality, and yet in the same breath, they then call for President Zuma to be recalled. Which COSATU are we speaking to?
Well, the COSATU we see today is very different from the COSATU of Zweli Nzimavavi, and the COSATU of Zweli Nzimavavi is very different from the COSATU of the likes of Joe Slovo and even Mr. Cyril Ramaphosa, who was also one of the founding members of COSATU, along with Minister of Environmental Affairs, Ms. Edna Molewa. I think the dynamism in the change of COSATU looks to the elective conference more than the working class. And I think that's what the working class in South Africa must be concerned with. How can a labor movement just equip Mr. CR17, our Deputy President, Mr. Cyril Ramaphosa, to say he should be the president? Mr. Ramaphosa is also a shareholder in various organizations. COSATU, on the other hand, reserves the rights of the working class in this country. So it's it's an antagonistic relationship, because you would expect the working class to fight for the rights of the workers. But you find that in this case, they are siding with capital and the employees as well. The working class have three significant challenges in this country. They have a challenge of overstaffing or understaffing. They have a challenge of under-remuneration, and a challenge with white capital, because they own a lot, in fact, 97% of the economy and the JSE. So for that matter, for COSATU to evade the workers and pay so much attention to ANC internal politics and the ANC elective opinion, I think is an attack of the working class. To deny President Zuma the right to speak and to address workers in this country insults the worker, because COSATU is not the ANC. They are an alliance partner, but the ANC is the mother body. Yes, they contributed about 10% to the elective conference of the ANC that made President Zuma the president. But COSATU did not emotionally or voluntarily say that President Zuma is going to be the president. It was the decision of the branches. And to say President Jacob Zuma must not address the workers and President Zuma must step down without going through the branches seems to ignore ANC protocol and the ANC constitution.
I mean, there's been a well-documented evidence that there is a deficit of trust with the tripartite alliance. We saw the SACP at any given opportunity, Mr. Mapaila, making it clear that President Zuma must go. But again, it's more like grandstanding, or is it just the sign of the times, as you were saying, Mr. Hadima, around the elective conference coming up?
Well, there are very interesting, I think, times ahead. One has to consider that the tripartite alliance partners, they really have got limited say in how the African National Congress can vote in any particular way for a candidate or for a leadership or make a certain policy directive, because they just don't have locus standi in their form as, let's say, COSATU, SACP, or even SANCO, or any one of those other formations within the broader alliance movement. Now, when one has to ask a question and say, but it doesn't matter how much. What did former President Thabo Mbeki said? That he did not want to engage in megaphone diplomacy as far as Zimbabwe is concerned. Because everybody else has said that you got to shout to the top of the roof that Mugabe must go. And he asked a simple but very pragmatic and relevant question. Such shouting, exactly what effect will it bring about in terms of the situation at hand? Now, question has to be asked of both SACP and COSATU. The shouting that they are having at every opportunity to say Zuma must go, really, what effect will it have? Because they haven't been able to really demonstrate what locus standi they have, first and foremost, on how the position of president of the ANC comes into effect, what role they play, and also in terms of the president of the republic in terms of parliament and in a party political system that we have, how that position effectively gets instituted, what say that they have. So it doesn't matter how much, they are no different from a Safe SA because they don't have a seat at the table. But one has to question the wisdom of their continuing to shout at something that really it is not their privilege even to bring to fruition. So one has to ask that, other than to simply say that this is indicative of an alliance that exists only in name. It is no longer practical that they can say that they are so diverse in terms of ideology, and that is the leadership, by the way. And even within the African National Congress, I'm not sure that there is that uniform ideology on how to now deal with the alliance. And is the alliance still relevant, by the way? When Mandela first took his trip overseas, we have to bear in mind that one of the key things there was that SACP had so much influence in terms of where the ANC would have been going in terms of macroeconomic policy. And when Mandela went on that trip overseas, everything else was undone. And in my opinion, that was the end of the relevance of an SACP in the alliance. And even former President Thabo Mbeki, I think, questioned the validity or the wisdom thereof. And with COSATU, the moment we started seeing other federations come up, it meant that COSATU needed to stick to the knitting. What is the knitting? Worker issues. To really be spending so much time doing politics, if a poll or a survey was to be run amongst unionists in the country, I'm very doubtful that they will find that the members of COSATU aligned unions feel that indeed they have been represented adequately.
And exactly what anchors the alliance if it's not a common vision or common mandate to ensure equality in the workspace and social inclusion in the economy? What is the rationale of still maintaining an alliance where we saw with the COSATU rally, the president and deputy DG, or SG rather, being booed and even the speaker?
Well, the alliance is necessary because it addresses all facets of society. And that is a political strategy that was deployed by the likes of O.R. Tambo and Walter Sisulu, which was an incredible strategy because you had a church group and the administration there was very strong. You had the ANC Women's League that ministered directly to women and women's issues. The ANC Youth League and the Roaring Young Lions maintained that there was a structure in the ANC to deal with the youth voice and youth challenges. COSATU dealt with the workers or the working class. SATU dealt with the teaching fraternity. The SACP dealt with the communist agenda that was to be fulfilled in society. So it was a great structure to integrate all of them, but ultimately one becomes COSATU. However, because of over-engagement, I think President Zuma made the mistake of over-engaging COSATU into everything. So much so that COSATU and the SACP felt that after the cabinet reshuffled, they had not been consulted. And I think if a president tells you what he's going to do or what is in his mind, it's consultation. It is not for the alliance to make up the mind of the president on who he should appoint and who he should not appoint. I think that is the mind that is the constitutionally enshrined right of any president in the world. So over-engagement has brought them too close, and they were never that way with Mandela, they were never that way with former President Thabo Mbeki. So now that they are too close, they struggle at the ranks, and I think COSATU believes that in this day and age, it has got the responsibility to unilaterally speak on who the president is going to be. The clear voice is that they are going with Mr. Cyril Ramaphosa. So pushing President Zuma to go now, Mr. Cyril Ramaphosa is the deputy, which means he would then become the incumbent, he would step up. This would give him about 6 months to work on the branches, strengthen his ranks, and he would become the ANC president come December 2017. So it's a factionalist battle. However, COSATU has evaded everything and forgotten its own mandate and it has preoccupied itself with the vacancy that will be in the 5 days in December on who the ANC president will be.
Okay, gentlemen, we're going to leave it there. Just had a thought about the 8 days in September, and the ANC saying they can't afford to recall the president, but it's something that we'll watch very closely for you, and that's I almost said Professor Tsepo Khadima and Sfiso Mahlanga, resident political analyst. On to other stories.